it's worth noting with Dan Hooker because he does have what, 10 losses on his record, 11 losses on his record. He had a few losses early on in his career. You know, not everybody starts their pro career when they're prepared to be a professional. Some people pick up losses all the way through and then they kind of arrive at a more finished product later on. Dan Hook is definitely one of those kind of people, and where the finished product is, where his peak is, I'm not sure. We may not have seen it yet, so you know we've got to keep that in mind. But through his early career, you know, he picked up a couple of losses, you know, kind of learnt the game as he was going, but always constantly improving, doing damage to people, cutting people. That was his, you know, something that I remember seeing in his career before he made his debut against Ian Entwistle. So he alternated wins and losses as a featherweight when he joined the UFC. So he joined the UFC in 2014, stopped Ian Entwistle in the first round, then he lost a decision to Blanco. Then he won a fight by stoppage, then he lost a decision to Yair Rodriguez. Then he won a fight in the first round, then he lost a decision to Jason Knight. So you can see this pattern here. He's either finishing guys or they're grinding him out to a decision. And at that point, when he'd lost to Jason Knight, so he's now 3-3 in the UFC. He made the decision to go up to a lightweight, and he got Ross Pearson in his first fight, which is a tough test for anybody. But he went on a 4-fight win streak. Ross Pearson, Mark Casey, Jim Miller, and Gilbert Burns stopped all of them. That was a great run of fighters. You know, I mean, they get better all the time. I mean, Jim Miller's still campaigning at 360 fights in the UFC, and Gilbert Burns is, you know, a top contender. He lost to Edson Barbosa following that, and that was another turning point in my eyes, because that was him enjoying the fight more than trying to get the win. You know, one thing that you don't do against Edson Barbosa or any striker of his caliber is stand there and absorb punishment like he did. I mean, the point where he took that body shot in the third round and went down, like I was ready for him to just take a knee at that point, because it was like he was trying to prove something to everybody regarding his toughness. He was trying to prove to people that he didn't have quit. And I don't think that was ever in question in the first place. But his approach in that fight was detrimental to him. And the reason I think that's important is because that could be the same situation here against Arnold Allen. Not only is he taking on, you know, someone that's quite happy and comfortable to outpoint you to a decision, which, you know, is not what Dan Hooker wants. He wants a scrap. He wants a brawl. He wants to make it bloody, and he wants to try and find a finish, and he likes taking a lot of risks. He fights to fight. He doesn't necessarily fight to win. And if Arnold's playing it clever, what we might see is him cruising around the octagon and beating up Dan Hooker, who's basically a punch bag that's walking forward trying to engage. Like, he might not get that fight out of Arnold Allen that he's looking for, so he needs to be a lot smarter with it. After the loss to Edson Barbosa, he went on another 3-fight win streak. James Vick by stoppage in the first round, then he beat Iaquinta by decision, and then Paul Felder, which was one of the best fights I've ever been witness to. A 5-round split decision. It was an absolute scrap. And at the end of the first round, you know, I'm watching this from the commentary booth thinking to myself, I don't know how Paul Felder's going to stay standing for another 20 minutes with the damage that he'd already received on his leg. It was a really slick performance. But then the second round, Hooker came out and started to engage Felder in a range that was more comfortable to him. If Dan Hooker's travelling halfway around the world and having a rough weight cut going back down to 145, I don't know whether he is or not, but travelling and weight cutting is miserable at the best of times. And travelling and going back down to a weight class that's 10 pounds away from what you have been for the past, 7 years? I mean, it's a long time. Sorry, 6 years. Like, your body grows, you know. Dan Hooker's 32 now. You know, there's a point when you're in your late 20s, or at least in my experience, when you kind of gain sort of 5 kilos, a few pounds, and it stays with you. You're just bigger. You know, it's like that man strength. And I don't know whether Dan Hooker has anticipated how difficult it might be to go back down to featherweight, as well as traveling halfway around the world to do it. I mean, I know he's already in the UK now, but like, it would take sometimes like 2, 3, 4 weeks to start feeling yourself after a journey like that. So that's a big question for me.